Welcome to RightScale's 5th conference. My name is Yuri Butnik, and I'm going to MC the event here a little bit and just walk you along as we progress through today's presentations. Before we get started, I just want to mention a couple of things. Thank you very much to the Cloud Computing Expo for letting us co-host this event and participate in a much bigger conference that is taking place as we speak in this building. Now, I know lots of us like to send out tweets and also retweets about a conference as it's happening, what the buzz is, what's taking place. Many of you might already know CC Expo hashtag is the right one for the Cloud Computing Expo, and also anything related to RightScale. If you want to send tweets or if you want to track what's happening, hashtag RightScale. Anything with RightScale, we are following it that way. Now, as far as the agenda for today, this morning we're going to have a keynote by our CEO, followed by Stephen O'Grady from RedMonk, an analyst, with a presentation about the marketplace. And directly after that, some presentations from our customers. Then we have a break for lunch, which will be across the hallway over here. And then from there, we will have the afternoon breakout sessions, which is sometimes where the real excitement can happen there, when you can really dive down into deeper subjects. But perhaps most of all is the reception later on this evening at Parcel 104. And I'd like to point out, nobody really needs to drive there. We'll have buses going there and bring you back. So please feel free to join us. We love to have lots of those one-on-one conversations, especially over drinks. And we'd love to pour some libations with you. We would also like to thank our sponsors that are really partners of RightScale. And as you see all these company logos, and by the way, all these companies have booths and tables across the way at the Partner Pavilion. So if you want to speak to them directly in one-on-one and find out more about their technologies, there's people available right here across the hall. But it's all these technologies together with RightScale and the power of the cloud that makes it possible for us to deliver this joint value to our customers. And that's really the power of the technology coming together. So please do find out more about these different technologies. Today is about sharing. And you'll notice that we put our customers front and center. That is so that you can hear directly from them about their real experiences. What's working in the cloud, the kind of projects they're deploying, how best practices is evolving, how they're using RightScale to deliver more IT value for their companies. In fact, today should be chock full of information for the people that are in this room. And if you only learn one thing today, well, actually, you didn't get quite enough out of today. We're hoping that you leave with lots of very useful information, actionable information that you can put to practice in your companies, in your job specifically. And in fact, if there's any questions or if you want to learn more about a particular topic, look for one of us from RightScale. We're all wearing t-shirts or button-down shirts or sweaters, something with a RightScale logo. So we're all around to help you, and if you have a question we don't know, we'll find somebody else that does. In fact, at the Partner Pavilion, as I was mentioning, we have an expert bar. We have Ryan Geyer and Vijay Tolani that frankly are 9-degree black belts in cloud computing. So you want to learn more about the technology, you can go across, talk to them at the expert bar, find any one of us, just look for somebody in one of the blue shirts. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now introduce RightScale CEO, Michael Crandell.
Thank you, Yuri. Thanks so much, Yuri. Welcome, everybody, again. I'd suggest you take a minute and just look around the room at those who are next to you. As Yuri pointed out, this is really a sharing event, and you are the RightScale community. You are made up of some folks just learning about RightScale all the way up through customers, sitting among you who are doing pioneering work in the cloud, really amazing projects. And I hope you get to meet each other through the course of the day so that you can share some of the incredible experience that we've had seeing what you do. We're also joined by a number of partners, software vendors who are putting their software up in the cloud on our platform, system integrators who are delivering consulting projects, cloud service providers with us today we'll talk more about later, who deliver the amazing cloud infrastructure that we all use. We have some media and analysts with us, and again, just learners. But I'd like to also point out that anybody in a blue shirt is fair game. If you have questions through the day or feedback about RightScale, please let us know. And I would like to just start out, if you're a RightScale, raise your hand. RightScaler around here. Yep. And let's give a round of applause to the community folks who without whom we wouldn't exist. Okay, so wanted to talk about the state of the cloud. And before I launch into that, let's set the context for cloud computing in general. I think there are three huge trends occurring today. The first one is social, second one is mobile, and the third one is cloud. You know, most of these are obvious to all of us, but to just say a word, social, Twitter, Facebook, etc., are everywhere. There are now more visitors visiting social networking sites than there are visiting portals. On the mobile front, same thing has been happening. I read that more of the Earth's population is covered by commercial wireless signals than is covered by the electricity grid. Think about that. It's 85% coverage wireless, 80% with the electrical grid. And more mobile phones and smartphones were sold, and things like iPads in the fourth quarter last year than notebooks and desktops combined. So huge shifts occurring. Of course, cloud, we'll spend today talking a lot about that. Cloud is everywhere. And this is an interesting quote from a long-term venture capitalist in the Valley, Jean-Louis Gasset, where he said, these are three interdependent forces that power the biggest wave of growth, change, and destruction. And I think what he means by that is destruction, change of models in the high-tech industry, right? And the interesting point is that the first two really wouldn't exist the way they exist today without the cloud. So let's focus in just on cloud. By the way, a little clarification. Somebody said, why do you have a mushroom cloud in there? That is not a mushroom cloud. That is called a supercell thunderstorm, which was a photo taken in Montana on the prairie. And what's happening there is, in these supercell thunderstorms, huge updraft. And the reason I used it is it's such a dramatic image, right? And that matches what we've all been hearing and experiencing with the cloud over the last 5 years. It's been called the big switch, right? Comparing it to the advent of the electricity grid. It's been called the new IT stack, replacing the lamp stack, replacing the Windows stack. And it's been called the third revolution, the first one being the PC revolution and the second being the internet. Lots of dramatic, you know, this sense of everything's getting sucked up by this huge change, this dramatic change with the cloud. But what I wanted to share with you today is a little more boring. Cloud as a check mark, right? What's happened, if you just fast forward to fall 2011, is it's absolutely clear. Cloud is not a fad, it's not a trend. Cloud is just a requirement for all of us. That's the reality we face. Everybody is going to have to use it, no matter what. So I asked our CTO and original founder, Torsten van Eycken. Torsten, are you here? Can you wave to everybody? If you have any compliments, let him know after the show. I asked Torsten to share some thoughts with me about what he's seen across the last 5 years in terms of evolution of how we think about the cloud. And he reminded me 5 years ago, you know, Amazon EC2 was really the pioneer in setting this new format. It was all about public infrastructure as a service. And on the technical side, what we talked about all the time was elastic provisioning, agility, right? Infinite scale, virtually infinite scale was a phrase used over and over. And everything powered by automation around the provisioning. So standard commodity componentry being automatically provisioned. And from the business point of view, there was talk over and over about on-demand access to resources, operating expense versus capital expense being an advantage, and the economies of scale and the cost benefits that went with using big public cloud providers. So that was in 2006. Fast forward a couple of years, based on that trend, we saw some amazing things happening, again, in the public cloud. One of the stories that became kind of a poster child for the public cloud was the Animoto scaling event. This was the event where they took their, by the way, very cool service that's still doing super well, where you take digital photos and make movies out of them. And they did a Facebook plugin for their service. And it went viral. You could email your Animoto movie to friends who could then make their own and email that to friends. And it was a typical viral campaign. And this is an actual graph from RightScale of what happened in terms of launching servers. They went from 50 to 3,500 servers in 3.5 days. It was absolutely unthinkable to do this without public cloud. So amazing event. It was also pretty amazing that you see the graph goes back down. They found out that the promotion wasn't delivering the ROI that they expected, and so they scaled back down. Just an amazing example that could not have been pulled off almost by any company, but certainly by a startup without public cloud. Now fast forward to today, and the scene has changed a little bit, right? There are so many more cloud deployment options. There's private clouds, private internal clouds. There are private hosted clouds available. There's still public cloud. There are hybrid mixes of all this. And the business benefits vary very much by the different model. So there's no simple rule anymore of what costs less, which used to be kind of the religion that was preached 5 years ago. OpEx is not always the preferred model. It depends on your company. You may, for various reasons, want to do capital investment. And sometimes just control of the infrastructure is paramount. So that's a big difference. But the technical benefits really remain the same, which is automation plus an API that drives the management and launching and decommissioning of all these compute, storage, and networking resources. And the other interesting thing that's happened that we've actually witnessed with our customers is that even in-house clouds can reach this kind of infinite scale, this perception of infinite scale, if the supply chain pipeline that you develop inside your company can get the servers racked and stacked and provisioned quickly enough and cloudified with a cloud architecture on them. The business users don't need to know that there was ordering going on. So if you get that perfected, you really can achieve scale internally also. So it's a very different view of the world. So as we arrive at today, what constitutes a cloud? What qualifies as a cloud? What's the minimum requirement for a cloud? Well, I define that as automated, scalable, on-demand compute, storage, and network resources, right? And it's like a layer cake, in my view. The layering is super important here. You need the highly effective layers of abstraction and the separation among those layers really to achieve the benefits of cloud. Each layer achieves scalability through its predictability and uniformity. And as our CTO Torsten is fond of saying, true clouds are API driven. So the reason I mention that is there is still a lot of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt out there about what is really cloud computing, because everything is called that. And it's important to remember that virtualization does not constitute cloud computing. It's an important ingredient in most clouds, but by itself, virtualization does not a cloud make. And I wanted to borrow this slide from the previous user conference we ran last June. One of our customer speakers was Amdocs. And they put up this slide about their enterprise journey to the cloud. How did they evolve toward using cloud computing? I believe the presentation's still available on our website. You can go check that out and watch a video. And they were telling the story of how they built a hybrid cloud using some private cloud alongside public cloud resources. The important thing to note, I won't go through every step here, the important thing to note is where is virtualization in this evolution? It's only halfway there. It's only halfway there toward true cloud computing. So I think, again, fast forwarding to today, the model is changing, right? This is the model that we've talked about a lot for cloud computing, what I call the SPI model, software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. And what's happening is that model has become outdated. It's no longer a good mapping for what we see out in the market. At best, it's kind of good at describing logical layers. But what's happening out in the market, what's being supplied by vendors, what customers are actually implementing, has begun to mix and blur quite a bit beyond that. And this is more of a picture of what you're seeing. You're seeing some blurring among the vertical levels. You're seeing people mix infrastructure as a service with platform quite effectively across these different types of infrastructure, right? Public, private, and hybrid. There are many examples of this. We see Amazon's web services offerings, including more and more platform-like offerings. We see Google and Microsoft Azure starting with platform offerings, offering things that are much more infrastructure as a service-like. And then there are these super interesting new kinds of software, platform as a service, run your own platform as a service with full control up and down the stack. So as opposed to the traditional platform where you plug in your code and you're done, these new roll your own platform as a service can be run, for example, on RightScale. They can be run inside your own data center also. Zen's PHP application acceleration stack running on RightScale is an example. So is Cloud Foundry. So interesting blurring occurring. And this is, again, our architecture and our picture, our mapping of how we look at the world. And the important points here, again, I won't read every piece, but the important points are through the APIs, accessing multiple different resource pools from multiple different providers. I think most of them are here in the partner pavilion, so remind you to go check out what they're offering. And then this section in the middle, which is really the framework where you can build your own specific solutions for different components, different software stacks, et cetera, or choose them from our multi-cloud marketplace library of solutions. They come from RightScale, they come from our partners, some are contributed by the community, and some are engineered directly by customers. And then, as we'll show you a little bit later this morning, there's an API into RightScale itself. So the only interface is not the dashboard. In fact, about half of our traffic comes through the API, not through the web-based dashboard. So ultimately, the vision, I think, has shifted from this sort of SPI model to one cloud. In simple terms, there's one cloud that you can access, one way of accessing it, and multiple resource pools. And what I've graphed here, it's kind of hard to see, are various public cloud service providers throughout the world that we either support today or are in the process of working to support. And it shows the pretty substantial geographic reach that you can get through that. And many of them are partnered together among themselves. And then if you add to that the capability to create and incorporate a private cloud into the same management interface, really this is unprecedented in the history of technology to get at this kind of collection of data center resources. So I want to share some statistics about what our customers are doing, what they've created. Again, pretty amazing stories. We usually organize the A to Z here, so arts and entertainment or Animoto through Zynga. We have a broad range of customers. They range from big enterprises to startups and everything in between, and across many different areas, vertical areas of focus for their own businesses. So some stats from them. The first is the growth that they're driving, right? And this was a statistic that we shared in September, that when we launched our 3 millionth server on RightScale, and the reason that we keep updating the stats about launching servers is launching servers is truly cloud-oriented. It was enabled by cloud computing. It's about the elasticity of cloud. And what we saw here is that each subsequent million that we launched happened about twice as fast as the previous one. So that's a very gratifying sign of growth. At the same time, there were other trends happening that made the cloud more and more flexible and differentiated. And so some interesting stats here. The first one is around server templates. Server templates, again, are models of how servers should run. It's a special technology invented at RightScale that we offer on our platform. Last January, we reported that we had 42,000. By today, we have over 67,000. That's about a 2.5x increase since 2009. The basic component scripts that run RightScale, there are nearly 1 million in the system now. Pretty amazing. Those scripts comprise everything from shell scripts to chef recipes to Puppet, etc. There's also been a big increase since the early days in the number of users per account. And I think what that shows is growth even within organizations of how many individuals are using RightScale to either run their IT solutions, manage them, control them, track them, etc. And then finally, this last slide, which we've tracked over time, is what's the division of types, the power of servers being run on the platform. And what started in 2006 and 7 as a single size, it was a small instance, and these are normalized sizes, has grown into quite a variety of sizes of servers. And what that represents is different powers. So a 4XL is quite a bit more powerful than a small. It represents a lot more CPUs at work and CPU cycles. So if you now map that increase in the power of servers being run on top of the number that have been launched, you get the following graph. And this is the one that I think is most amazing. This is the growth in CPU power being powered on the RightScale platform, right? So this is kind of how many servers are running at any one time times the power of those servers mapped over time. And what I think is really interesting, what we decided to call out, is how much of that power is being run by companies that use more than a single resource pool. So the top yellow single line is really all usage together. The dark gray shaded area represents those customers who are using more than one resource pool. And our definition of that would include, for example, more than one region from a given cloud provider. You can see that, except for a tiny little bit of white there, it's probably hard to see, nearly all our users are using more than one region. It's best practices, right? It's about failure isolation. The other point is how many of the CPU cycles are being run by customers who not only use more than one region, but use more than one cloud resource pool across providers or including private and public. And that's this number. And the percentage is 84%. So really, the bottom line here is that multi-cloud usage is dominating of those who are using RightScale. So I wanted to say a word or two about challenges, because I toss out to you, I would like to challenge everyone here, that these are major issues that you have to confront moving forward. I think they're unavoidable, they're very topical, they're things that we see customers and prospects wrestling with all the time. Visibility, standardization, and self-service. On the visibility front, right, there are many names that we call independent projects that get launched under the radar. Shadow IT, rogue IT, IT leakage, etc. There's an interesting statistic came from James Staton of Forrester. He said, in their estimate, for every cloud project you know about in an organization of any size, there may be 3 to 5 others you don't know about, right? And this isn't because people want to rebel. It's because people want to get work done to move the company forward. That's why all this consumption is happening. And so basically, you need to give up. You're not going to stop this. This train has left the station. Why should you be concerned about it? Well, you need to be concerned about it for several reasons. First of all, you need to have some control over the quality. What's the quality of these solutions being built? Are they built for high availability? Are they built for best practices there? Do they take into account business continuity, disaster recovery, things like that? What about security? What about the security of these solutions that's being built? What about their compliance with your internal policies or with regulatory issues that your company needs to address? What about billing? Can you even track who's doing what where so you know what it's costing the company? We surveyed one of our customers down in San Diego and found out they did an internal audit and found 60 different people were using public cloud and expensing it on their monthly credit card expense report. So really tough to track. Do you have any control over that? And that's even on a single cloud. Imagine throwing in multiple clouds and the problem gets even worse. So visibility is a big concern. The next one is around standardization. And again, remember that cloud computing itself is kind of based on the notion of commodity, pretty standardized building blocks that you can utilize without specifying exactly what's needed. So anyway, cloud builds are really everywhere. People are out there putting together their own mixture of machine images. There's a lot of sprawl of different machine images that have been created that people are trying to track. There are builds being created in all kinds of different configuration languages. Some developers are downloading open source frameworks that have their own public cloud provisioning and building that. And there's this phenomenon that I call the accidental tourist in the cloud, where somebody has put together a solution, they stick it up somewhere in a public cloud and declare victory. High five, touchdown dance, we're done. We succeeded. But it wasn't really built, it wasn't designed for the cloud, and then when an outage occurs or unexpected circumstance, the whole service goes down. So it's an issue of how can companies support this, really? So the train has left the station, developers are developing these solutions, and the reality is there needs to be some way to bring IT and development together so they're not headed toward this dev versus ops train wreck. Ultimately, I think you're going to find demand for self-service in your organizations. How do you meet the demand for self-service in an organized way? And one of the things that we've been talking about for a while is the notion that the IT department can become the hero again. That there are ways for IT to deliver the agility that business users want, that developers want, while still maintaining some control over the best practices, the compliance that's required, et cetera. The problem is that legacy management products don't really meet that need. They weren't designed for the cloud, and so they're not solutions that really can deliver self-service the way it's needed. We believe what you need is a cloud management solution that provides those three basic things: automation, a library of solutions that you can borrow from others, that you can create yourself, that you can license from vendors. And then finally, some way to get visibility and tracking and governance over what's being done.